Hey guys, it's Mike here, and was Future Trunks really more powerful than Vegeta during the Cell Saga of Dragon Ball Z? That's something that I've seen people go back and forth on over the years during my time in the Dragon Ball community, of course, since the Cell Saga first came out in the United States and around the world. And the question of was Trunks really more powerful than Vegeta, or was it simply a larger misunderstanding that Trunks had when he was comparing his power in his other form or other grade comparative to Vegeta's? Well, I'm going to be going in depth in this video, breaking that down for all of you, so let's get into that right now. Okay, so let's begin with the first moment that we see Trunks and Vegeta's new power, which is after they emerge from the hyperbolic time chamber or room of spirit and time. So as we see at this point, they're talking about Goku, Tien, Piccolo, and Gohan, how Cell's power is so great that no one would really be able to beat him at this point. This is actually after he had absorbed Android 17, and Piccolo right here is the most powerful fighter here at the time by a great amount in this dimension, until Trunks and Vegeta emerge from within there. And what do we see when they come out? First off, Trunks states the progress of the two of them, saying, "Sorry to keep you waiting," and Dad broke through the Super Saiyan barrier in the first 2 months, but he still wasn't satisfied with his power and kept going. So Trunks is already referring to at this point that form that we'll see later on of Super Vegeta. And Vegeta's, extremely confident in his power for good reason, as we'll go on to see. And he just says it would be pointless for them to train inside because he's the one who's going to destroy Cell and the androids. Everyone's surprised. Goku is even saying, I just gotta look at Cell after he absorbs 17. He's a monster. Vegeta, well, he doesn't care because he knows that he's gonna smash him. And so when we actually skip ahead a little bit to what we see right here, that's what happens. Vegeta shows up. And, Cell is like, Vegeta, what's going on here? Why are we going to fight? You really think that you can defeat me? And he's like, no, I didn't come to defeat you, Vegeta said. I came here to pulverize you until there's nothing left because, Vegeta likes to say badass sounding things like that. They sound probably more badass in his head when he says them, And he's sickened that his cells were made up here. And then, what does 18 say here? What can he do against Cell when he was powerless against me? But 18's not able to sense powers. Instead, what actually does 16, the one who can, with his scouters, say right here? He said, it is odd though, Vegeta's power has increased significantly since last time. So they don't know why. Of course, they don't know about the time chamber, which kind of lends credence to the idea that it probably still exists in the Future Trunks timeline. He just didn't know about it there. But the thing is that we find out that Vegeta, well, he's going to go full power right away against Cell. Well, full power, as I'll get into soon. And the point of the matter is that, you have to wonder how powerful Vegeta is right here in just his regular Super Saiyan. I tend to think that Vegeta probably would have been able to defeat the androids in his regular Super Saiyan form right here, or at least was very much comparable to Piccolo, at the very least in this form, because they do say that his power has increased significantly and that he thinks that he might be able to delay Cell. So the fact that, this is Cell after he absorbed Android 17 should kind of lend credence to the fact that maybe Vegeta right here wouldn't even need grade 2 or 3 to defeat the androids. And I'll talk about Vegeta with grade 3 soon because Trunks isn't the only one that we find out who could actually do that. This is when we see Vegeta in this awesome drawing from Toriyama revs up to being his grade 2 Super Vegeta. And look just how muscular he is, to borrow a reference from Harold. Look at those biceps, those triceps, those deltoids. We can't see his abdominals, but look at those glutes. Well, you can't see those either, but still. The point of the matter is Vegeta, well, he was jacked despite only being, 5'6" at the most. And I think that's when he wears lifts in his boots. But anyway, what do we see right here? Immediately, he just starts to wreck Cell, and he's putting him down. And, we get a great indication of just how powerful this version of Vegeta is. He's so much more powerful than Cell, who is already far more powerful than Piccolo, who is far more powerful than Vegeta. And this is then after he absorbs 17, who is also going to be able to stomp Vegeta at that point, comparable to Piccolo. So, what do we see right here? Cell actually revs it up a little bit because he wasn't going all out quite just yet. But even then, Vegeta's pulling a Gohan moment here. Quite an improvement, but is that all? And Trunks is already saying Dad is one. And so, he actually lets Cell punch him at full power, just like what we saw with Gohan later on in the arc. And he's not able to really do anything. Vegeta actually did the same thing with Android 19 when he fought him as well, just to kind of see how he is. He's pulling a Rocky, trying to see just how strong his opponent's punches are by letting him get punched right in the face. And because he is Super Vegeta. At this point, here's something interesting, which is where we get a little bit of an indicator momentarily when Vegeta's still wrecking Cell of Trunks' power. And what do we see right here? Well, first off, we see Krillin speculating, that must be Trunks. I wonder if he's just as powerful too. And what exactly happens here? And we get, Cell is being mocked by Vegeta, and he says something here. I'll tell you something that will really shock you. There's a guy named Trunks over there. He has almost as much power as me. And then, of course, we get the scene of Cell shocked looking at Trunks, and this is when Vegeta is eventually goaded into having Cell trick him because he's like, if I just could attain my completion, my perfect form, I would in turn be able to defeat you for sure. I'd never be beaten by you. He starts to play into his Saiyan pride. So Vegeta's statement right here is important because this is something that we have to wonder if Vegeta is actually really a reliable narrator in this case, somebody who's pointing out something that's correct. Because, of course, for many years, I always interpreted this as Vegeta, just being arrogant. He's Vegeta. Of course, he says he's more powerful than Trunks. But there's an argument that that's actually not true, that Vegeta actually does know Trunks' full capabilities here, despite the fact that he's unconscious when Trunks powers up later. And he knows that overall, even if we factor in the fact that Vegeta could himself become one of those forms, he is more powerful than Trunks. So leave that up in the air as I get into that momentarily, but as we see here, Vegeta is stating that he is more powerful than Trunks. So if we say that he's more powerful than Trunks in his grade 2, and you really compare the two powers there, then that means that Vegeta is more powerful in general because his base form would also be stronger and so on and so forth. So that's the first indicator of whether or not Vegeta is actually stronger than Trunks, or whether Trunks, is maybe mistaken about his power. Again, you could chalk it up as arrogance, but let's keep going. Because what happens here? Well, eventually we actually do get a little bit of a fight between Vegeta and Trunks, where Cell finds out where 18 is, he powers up, Vegeta attacks him so that he can't intervene, which, Vegeta actually got to this spot faster than Trunks did. You can even see right here that Vegeta started at a further distance, and so he's behind Trunks right now. When he goes, you see Trunks is almost at Cell, but you see Vegeta, he actually gets there afterward, and he's still able to catch up to Trunks and kick him out of the way. So that's an indicator that Vegeta might be faster than Trunks here. At this point, what happens, though? Trunks, well, he says, I'm going to stop you even if I have to kill you. And Vegeta's like, you kill me? As if you had the guts to attack your own father. He thinks that Trunks is soft, but apparently he forgot what Trunks did to Frieza because he blasted him. And I love this shocked expression of Vegeta. He's like, oh, shoot, he actually did it. And so as a result, Trunks gets down there and he tries to take out, Cell, but he fails. And what happens here? Well, that idiot Trunks, he actually, And so Vegeta, you could see he does have a little bit of burns or, scuffs on his face, like his forehead right here, his cheek. So it's not like the power didn't get through his force field at all. But Vegeta also wasn't exactly having his guard 100% up because he didn't think Trunks was even going to do it. So what ends up happening here, Cell becomes perfect. And we see the power here on display of Cell when he wrecks Krillin and then he goes to town on Vegeta momentarily. But what exactly happens here? Well, Trunks says that Vegeta is going to get killed because he knows that he's nothing compared to the Saiyans. However, he has a great feel for somebody's power, and now I know how insanely powerful Cell is. What he did to me was nothing but a love tap. I could barely imagine what terrors it's capable of. And what does he say right here? He then says, the amount of chi I'm feeling, the amount of chi you feel from it isn't everything. It's got more, way, way more, just like you, Trunks. So you know, says Trunks. And this is where we get the conversation where they're stating that, Trunks is more powerful than Vegeta. Vegeta probably hasn't noticed it, how he is, but I felt it. How you're kind of deferring to Vegeta. You broke through the wall that Vegeta couldn't be, am I right? And so we see Vegeta trying to fight against Cell, but Cell isn't even really doing anything. He's just playing with him. He's not even attempting to hurt Vegeta yet. Dad did surpass the limits of Super Saiyan. He attained incredible power, as you could see. But one day I surpassed even that. I realized that this is what Son Goku was talking about. But I could never tell my father. He's just too proud. He should have beaten Cell while he had the chance. So this wall that they're referring to is one of two different things. Number one, it is just a level of power that Trunks attained in his base, his Super Saiyan Grade 2, and then Grade 3, or just Grade 3 in general. I actually tend to lean more toward Grade 3 because of everything we see here. Because as we see, Trunks is watching as the fight continues to go on. Vegeta goes full power, kicks Cell as hard as he can right in the head, and we get that smile. Once again, it's kind of channeling Android 18 after Cell had absorbed her. She had the exact same kind of smile right when 17 went to kill Gohan. So I think that's entirely possible, as we see right here. Trunks would have done the exact same damage to Cell if he kicked him. And as we see, Vegeta at this point powers up. He starts getting wrecked. And then he's like, okay, I'll do something. And so he goes to use the final flash. And he uses this against Cell. He tricks Cell using his own arrogance. Do you think that your complete self have the courage to take this head on? You're still a coward. Cell's like, I'll do it. And so Vegeta goes to blast him. Final flash! And he hits him. And we get the iconic, oh shit moment from Cell, which is always censored in almost every version, except for the German one, I think. Hallo Guten Tag to all my German fans out there. Or the Austrian ones. I know you guys like Harold. And we see this awesome moment of the blast going off, and rest in peace to whatever planet ended up getting hit by that in the future. Maybe it's still out there on its way to wipe out an intelligent civilization. Maybe that'll be the next arc of Dragon Ball Super. The planet that got hit by the final flash, and then its remnants came to get revenge on Vegeta. So we see that Cell in a awesome Toriyama graphic fashion where you could see his blood and organs, everything coming right out of him, got that hit right there, makes it seem like this is something that he had, really done damage to Cell. But of course, did you forget that I had Piccolo's blood too? Or Gyug, as you could read right there. Comes right out. And then Vegeta, he uses Vegeta's technique. And he's doing the Flurry of Blast, and then he just gets utterly wrecked by Cell, who just starts to punch him. Another great callback later on when Vegeta attacks him after Trunks gets killed. Basically, the exact same thing happens there as well. So, he gets knocked out right here, and then Trunks begins to channel his power. You got to turn into that Super Saiyan. So again, that's the thing that he's talking about here. It's not just a level of power, it doesn't seem like, but rather it's actually the grade 3 of Super Saiyan that Trunks taps into. And as we see right here, he bulks up, is kind of raging out, basically channeling Broly right here, as that Broly's legendary form was actually based on this version of Trunks as well. And as we see him powering up, and, I just want to do this as a little aside, but if anyone ever wondered why these certain panels or these certain chapters look different than all the other ones, why they're like grayed or more grayscale, it's actually because this was fully colored by Toriyama. But the thing is that certain releases of the art actually were in black and white, I guess to save money on ink or something like that. But that was the reason why a lot of these chapters look really different from one to the other. And, we get an indication right here from Cell where he's really shocked. He's like, what is that, Trunks? And what ends up happening next? Well, Trunks seems confident that he'll be able to win. And here we go. I can feel it. He had that much power buried in him. Cell, it's time. I'm going to kill you. And actually, this scene in the Viz manga that I have is actually Trunks has red hair in it. So I guess Toriyama came up with Super Saiyan God a lot earlier than we thought. Or I guess, maybe they got it wrong in Super. Trunks' hair should have been red. Because he's the redhead stepchild of this franchise. But anyway, we get this awesome moment, the stare off between the two of them. One of my favorite main characters and really my favorite, the perfect villain. And the two of them get to fighting. And, Trunks is actually purposely waiting to go full power here because the fact that he's waiting for Vegeta to be carried away. Oh, now you can fight freely, Cell says. And here we keep going. So the two of them get to fight. Trunks keeps powering up, making his muscles larger and larger and larger. And you're about to see my true power. Yes, it is magnificent power, greater than mine by a wide margin. But then power isn't everything, I assure you. So Trunks thinks he's bluffing. Now, interesting about this statement right here is that I don't really know that this is really true what Cell is saying here. A lot of people interpret this as meaning that Trunks, when he powers up to his grade 3, is actually more powerful than 100% perfect Cell, and maybe comparable somewhere to Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, even after, he unlocks it against Cell. So that's something that a lot of people have interpreted, that they think that Trunks actually was far more powerful than Cell, as he says right here. But I don't really know that that's true. I feel like Cell is bluffing in a sense, but it's a reverse bluff, because not only does he know that Trunks isn't going to be able to beat him, but overall he also really isn't anywhere near as weak as he's depicting himself. I don't really ever think that it's the case that Trunks is truly more powerful. Like if Cell 100%, I feel like he'd probably be able to block and deflect Trunks' attacks and be able to beat him, because we never see him go 100% until Gohan goes Super Saiyan 2. But nonetheless, it is possible that because Trunks is really just using this form to, in a sense, amplify his strength, purely his muscles, what ends up happening is that he is going to amplify his power basically, infinitely in terms of physical strength, while simultaneously reducing his speed. So it is possible that he is physically stronger than Cell, but overall, in terms of pure power, not really even close. So in terms of volume, think Yusuke versus Sensui. He's saying, even Piccolo is saying his power exceeds even Cell's, but Piccolo hasn't sensed full power. Cell, no one has at this point. And then, interestingly, what ends up happening here is that Toriyama does a great job of actually contrasting Gohan and Goku's training in the hyperbolic time chamber. As Gohan is training, becoming more powerful, we see just how much he's progressing, and simultaneously, we see that Goku powers up. He goes into grade 2, just like Vegeta and Trunks were doing before, but then he takes it even further, where he says, and I could do one more notch, powers up and becomes the exact same form that Trunks is right now. The grade 3, this bulked up Ultra Super Saiyan, as a lot of English speaking fans like to call it. And, you could easily take Cell now, Gohan says, but Goku actually figures out the weakness really even before Trunks does, depending upon time dilation. So what ends up happening here is that Trunks cannot hit Cell no matter what he's doing. And then Goku says here, could I beat him like this? No, probably not. Because even without fighting, Goku already figured out that all this new mass gives me strength but kills my speed. All the power in the world won't do any good if I can't hit the guy. Now, this consumes too much energy as well. All in all, the regular Super Saiyan is the best. rest. And so this is when they start to master the Super Saiyan form and really make it their kind of basic form, and then in turn power up even more after they're already in it without wasting the energy used to transform into it. So it is interesting to think about, though. I mean, these characters are already fighting faster than the speed of light. They're super powerful. So, does having that much extra weight really drag them down that much? Like if somebody's twice as heavy, are they now half as fast? Is that kind of how the physics work here? I'm sure that, maybe I'll break it down in depth in a video in the future, or somebody else might have already done. But nonetheless, what we see is that Trunks can't do anything. And this is when Cell, the villain, actually has to explain this to Trunks, which is another thing I really love about this, that Cell, the villain, explains the fault of the hero, the one who basically kicked off this whole arc, and then in turn, why he can't even win here. Because, you're still green, you haven't figured it out. You said you'd show me your true power, but here you are relying on brute force. And then Cell powers up to the exact same basic form. He kind of copies it with himself to where he bulks himself up too. Such a transformation is nothing, as you can see, says Cell. And we see, look how jacked he is right now. Harold, loves the perfect cricket man anyway, so he's definitely happy about that. But what good is a transformation that only gives you brute strength? You were a fool. And here right now is where we get kind of definitive information as well about Trunks' power compared to Vegeta and, this new form. So that's why Dad chose not to transform this way. He knew this would happen. Cell was right. I was an idiot. So, yeah, the thing is that Trunks powers down. He knows he's going to lose. And, there is in the anime a little moment where after Vegeta comes back and, Krillin actually goes to tell him, that, he couldn't win. And then Vegeta's like, of course he couldn't win. Why would he even stand a chance? And then Krillin is like, well, Trunks is actually way more powerful than you. Like, none of that's actually in the manga. It's more that, Vegeta still thinks he's more powerful. And simultaneously, he's like, oh, I'll be able to defeat him. I'll just go in the room myself. I don't need to worry about training with you again, Trunks. So, again, there's not really anything that indicates in the narrative itself that Trunks was actually more powerful than Vegeta when you really look at everything. According to Trunks, Vegeta could have also attained the exact same form as Trunks as we see right here. He just chose not to because exactly like Cell is saying here, that there's no point in transforming into it because it only gives you brute strength but doesn't increase your speed and it actually slows you down. So in turn, it means that the form is inherently useless, which it makes it the worst form in the entire franchise because not only does he not even beat anyone at any point with it, but it also just is completely abandoned because it's a complete waste of time. For some reason with Broly, he can transform like this and doesn't lose any speed, but I guess that's because it's a legendary or devil form or whatever you want to say at that point, as opposed to this just being, Super Saiyan Hulk, essentially, even though, Hulk actually does increase the speed. So just Super Saiyan shit because it's terrible. It's trash. Super Saiyan trash. Not grade 3. Super Saiyajin trash. That's a better name. So everything really indicates, when you think about it, that Vegeta would have been able to use the same form as Trunks and that he would have been just as powerful, if not more powerful than Trunks when he used it himself. However, the thing is that there's only one moment that I could think of that makes you wonder why he didn't do it, which is right here during the final flash. Because after all, if Vegeta is just going for pure power, he's just a stationary object right here who goads Cell into being able to take on his attack, then why didn't Vegeta just ramp it up to that form that Trunks would have so that he'd be able to produce more power? I mean, there's two reasons I could think of off the top of my head right now, which is that Toriyama didn't think of it yet, and that, Vegeta doing it would ruin the narrative and the entire point of Trunks doing it because Trunks would know that Vegeta has the form and kind of cancel out everything we just saw. But really, maybe the other reason is that when Trunks or anyone uses that form, what actually ends up happening is that a lot of the chi, the ki that they would utilize in their body, is devoted to pumping up their muscles, to making their strength more powerful physically in their physical body. And so as a result, you can't exactly fire an incredibly powerful blast, or at least a blast as powerful as you could in the previous form, because the fact that everything is focused focus literally on brute strength or physical force. So I think that makes sense right there. Now, after this point, Trunks and Vegeta do go in the time chamber and train again, but we never get any indication that their power is really any different from the others. We see them both fighting against the Cell Juniors. Both of them are doing not exactly, having an easy time taking them on. Trunks is putting in a lot of effort. So is Vegeta, who's taking shots as well. The only person we never see take a shot or, really get hurt by the Cell Juniors is Piccolo. And then at this point, we see at the end of the fight when Gohan goes Super Saiyan 2, only 3 people are actually on their feet, which are Piccolo, Trunks, and Vegeta. So all 3 of them went to the time chamber again. Piccolo only went in once, but it almost seems like all of them are comparable in terms of power. Piccolo might be a little bit weaker than them, but overall, they're not really ever shown to be any different after that point. Now, there also is the theory that Cell, when he returned, killed Trunks first because he knew that Trunks was quote-unquote more powerful than him and would be the biggest threat and so on and so forth, but there really isn't any evidence to support that. In fact, we actually see that Cell doesn't even know who he fired and hit at first. He just sees Trunks lying there dead on the ground after he gets hit by the attack. And so he's like, who did I hit? Trunks. So he doesn't really even intend to kill Trunks when he comes back, and really Trunks never would have been a threat to him at this point anyway because he's so much more powerful. We do see, though, maybe a little bit of an indicator that Vegeta might be somewhat more powerful than Trunks is that he does rush in and attack Cell in a fit of rage. And again, this is super perfect Cell, and look that this guy actually has to take on a kind of bracing momentum and movement in order to stop some of the damage from Vegeta. So, you could argue that maybe Vegeta, at least during this moment, is more powerful than Trunks at that point in time, even when he does get slapped to the ground. So was Trunks actually more powerful than Vegeta? I don't really think that any of the evidence suggests that he truly was. If he was, it wasn't really by that much, and it would have translated to all of his other forms, but overall, the evidence seems to point to Trunks just thinking he was more powerful in his grade 3 form, despite the fact that he didn't even realize that Vegeta could have done the same thing, and ultimately it meant nothing in the grand scheme of things. So I think that, some people can even make the argument that Vegeta was stronger come the end of the day. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
And you better subscribe!